Hi again, Lexi, speech language pathologist in Wyoming. I am sharing some tips today that you might have questions about in early intervention. So this is for you guys that are parents out there and you have wee little ones and they're not talking as much as you think they should, or you've been to your pediatrician and they're telling you, yikes, like if we don't get some talking soon, we're gonna have to do a speech referral. And I know that lots of you may live in rural communities where you don't have that option for a quick speech eval, or you don't have a good speech clinic where you can get into quickly. So I wanted to share some tips with you that you can do at home, easy things that you can start with to kind of elicit some more speech and give your toddler the opportunity to really be successful at home. So I want to start by telling you that language develops differently in everyone, right? So we've also noticed bilingual homes. So that's homes where kids are hearing two languages, maybe Spanish and English or French and English, are often talking later because their brain is like absorbing all of this information from both languages. And so they're often what we call late talkers, which means they don't talk as early as we expect them to, which is okay. The other thing is that as it develops, we want to make sure that we're just meeting kids where they're at. We don't want to put pressure on them by like, you need to talk. Instead, we want to create environments that make it feel safe, exciting, and useful for them to use their language. So the first thing I want you to think about is really how we use language. You and I know that language is so important because it helps us communicate to get what we need. To ask for what we want, to negotiate for what we want, to tell people how we're feeling. Kids don't know that because as adults, we've often provided everything that they need and they haven't had to use their speech to ask for things. So the first place we can start is by teaching kids that language has meaning. How can we do that, right? Because it's just something like innate in us. Like when did you learn language? It was really useful. No, it's something you feel like you've always known. So what I encourage people to start with is right here, teaching kids that language does have meaning. So you can start with yes or no questions. And when you're encouraging your child to say yes or no, don't ask about things that aren't an option. So if you're saying, do you want to go to the store with me? But they have to go to the store with you, don't use this one as a time to kind of help with their language, because you already know the answer is yes, you're coming to the store with me no matter what you say. You want to use this when you can give them an option. Do you want to go swimming? Yes or no. They might start by giving you a head shake. Yes. You can say something like, oh, I see you shaking your head. Can you tell me? Yes. In the beginning, we want to reward them for any attempts. So if they're moving their mouth, yes. We're going to say, oh, yay, your lips were moving. You're doing it. Let's go swimming. If they say, yeah, that's not yes, but it's an attempt. And so we want to reward that attempt. Like, yay, you did it. Let's go. But if your child is still just shaking their head yes, I usually try several times to elicit that verbal yes. And then after that, I'll say, okay, we're going to keep trying this. And so I want you to practice it as quietly as you have to. You could even just say yes. And that is a place to start, right? So don't give up right away, but also don't hold them to this hard standard. Like if you don't do it, we can't move on, because that isn't a safe place for them to learn, right? So start with that. Start with some easy yes or no questions and use yourself as an example. So when in my example, I say, oh, I saw you shaking your head. That means yes, you try it. And that kind of shows them I have to use this to communicate as well. So you are their model. So use that. Here's the second tip. Start with some simple household items or toys that you know your child really likes. I spoke with someone earlier this week whose daughter was like pointing to a cup. So when we see a toddler pointing to a cup, we know that means they want the cup. But maybe we're not encouraging them to use language to tell us that. So you can use that as exactly the same way that we kind of did the yes, like, oh, that's a cup. Did you want that cup? And then they'll maybe say yes. You can say cup. We want to reward that attempt with the cup sound. Perfect. That's a great place to start. Toys are another great place to start because you can put them just out of reach. So they have to kind of engage you to ask for them. They might be pointing at it and you're like, what is it? What's up there that you want? And they might start by maybe their truck is up there and they make vroom, vroom. Okay, we're going to reward that attempt. Oh, you made the truck sound. That's called a truck. Do you want to try to say it? And they might go right into it. But giving them those opportunities and being a good speech model is a really great way to kind of start those interactions. The last thing I want to say before I end my video is that sometimes as parents, you may start to notice some issues with speech before your child has even started talking. That might be like a lisp. It might be using the W sound instead of the R sound. I love you. Or it might be that you're having trouble understanding their speech. And sometimes kids, as young as they are, know that's deviant from the norm. They can tell. And so they're hesitant to communicate with us because they don't sound exactly like their brother and sister, or exactly like you, or exactly like their peers. And the best thing that we can do is to get them talking more, because we can't start to fix difficulties with speech until someone's actually talking, right? It's like trying to fix someone who doesn't walk right, but they can only take 2 steps, right? We need you to have a better gait before we can start working on that. So we need you to be talking more before we can address any of those issues. So even if you notice those things, the best thing to do is to get them talking first, and then we can kind of hone in on those issues and address them. Oftentimes what we notice is that as children start to speak more, they're using their articulators more, they're experimenting more, and some of those issues even self-correct. So being a good speech model will always help your child, and just encouraging open communication, giving opportunities for them to be successful. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If you have questions or other topics that you're interested in me speaking about or giving some tips on, drop me a comment below.